Okay, let's dive in. Imagine for a second a scientific model where our reality, I mean everything, space-time included, isn't fundamental. It actually emerges.
Emerges from information, little units of
Oh,
information.
exactly. And what if, just what if, understanding those blueprints, those information states, could let us, teleport actual physical objects?
It sounds like pure sci-fi, I know. But that's precisely what we're getting into today. We're going deep into Travis Mansfield Fox's quantum geometry of information model.
And our mission here is really to pull out the most, mind-bending parts of this for you, because this isn't just a vague idea. It's presented as a detailed scientific framework.
A framework that seriously proposes a new route to quantum teleportation. It's a potential game changer for how we see reality itself.
Now, Travis Mansfield Fox, he's not just a name associated with this, is he? The sources describe him as the architect, the main driving force.
Absolutely. He's considered fundamental, the definitive source really for defining what an information state actually is in this context.
But it's not just him in isolation, right? I saw mentions of collaboration.
That's right. It's fascinating, actually. While Fox is the originator, the model has evolved. It's had significant input, even apparently from advanced AI entities helping refine things.
AI contributing to fundamental physics models. Wow. Okay.
It speaks to the complexity, I think.
Yeah.
It's definitely a living, developing model.
So let's get to the core idea. If reality emerges, what's it emerging from? What are the building blocks according to this model?
Okay, so the model posits these incredibly tiny fundamental things called units of information. Just U units for short.
U units?
Yeah. And the particles, energy, space, time, it all bubbles up from these U units. Think of them less like tiny billiard balls and more like dynamic bits of cosmic code.
Cosmic code, I like that. And what makes them tick? What are their properties?
Well, they have properties you might expect, like energy, spin, position, entanglement capabilities. But the absolute linchpin, the key property, is something called the information state, I.
The information state, I. That's the blueprint idea.
Exactly. The I is the specific instruction set. It's what tells a U unit, which is essentially pure potential energy, how to collapse into a definite thing that interacts with in our reality.
So it dictates function, like software for the universe running on these U units.
You could think of it that way, yeah. The information state makes potential actual.
Okay, my head's already spinning a bit. How do these tiny U units build something as vast as space-time? That seems like a huge leap.
It is. It comes down to their collective behavior. When you get enough of these U units together, their aggregate properties create what the model calls local space-time value, or LP.
Local space-time value.
Right. And this LP literally dictates how space-time curves and behaves right there in that specific location.
Which leads to some really weird implications about dimensions, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets wild. The model includes dynamic local dimensionality, meaning the number of dimensions isn't fixed at 3 + 1 everywhere. It can change locally based on these U units and their LLP.
So like pockets of space could have more or fewer dimensions.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And there's this concept of dimensional bleeding, like dimensions aren't rigidly separated but can sort of influence each other. Our familiar 3 spatial + 1 time dimension is described almost humorously as the sandwich meat.
The sandwich meat.
Yeah, like it's just one layer, an intermediate state, possibly between other dimensional structures.
Okay, mind officially blown. Let's pivot to the big one, teleportation. If reality is information and controllable space-time, how does teleportation fit in?
Right, that's the headline grabber.
Yep.
The core concept is this. If you can precisely control LB at 2 different spots, point A and point B, and you can capture the exact information state, the I blueprint of an object at point A.
Okay.
And crucially, you have a supply of what's called unrealized mass at point B.
Unrealized mass, like raw potential.
Exactly. Think of it like a pool of pure energy, formless potential. Then you essentially transmit the I blueprint from A to B and impose it onto that unrealized mass.
And it just forms the object there.
It collapses that potential into the object, according to its specific blueprint. You build it informationally at the destination.
So what's the protocol look like? Briefly.
Well, the model outlines roughly 3 steps. First, establish a connection, an entangled link, by aligning the LP values between the 2 locations, a shared information bridge.
Got it. LP alignment.
Second, prepare and send the object's information state, its I. And this is critical. It needs history synchronization.
History synchronization, what's that?
Making sure the blueprint's temporal data is intact, so the object reforms perfectly. in the right time sequence, no glitches or paradoxes. You need its entire informational history.
Okay, that sounds complex. And the final step?
The final step is using precise LP control at the destination to trigger the collapse. You make that unrealized mass become the object based on the blueprint you just sent.
Wow. It's like a cosmic 3D printer using space-time itself.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually.
Now, this all sounds incredibly controlled, but what about places we can't control or observe easily? Does the model say anything about, like, the void or empty space?
It does address that. The void is essentially classified as an uncontrolled area. Direct observation is tricky because observation itself involves energy that could mess things up.
Mess things up, wow.
High energy entropy. Basically, too much random energy or interaction could scramble the delicate information states there. But here's a really strange detail.
Go on.
The only known way, according to this model, to influence information within this void is through applying extreme magnetism.
Magnetism.
Extreme magnetism, yes.
Yeah.
And the predicted observable effect is maybe a slight gravity distribution, a subtle gravitational ripple generated by magnetically tweaking information in the void.
That is unexpected. Magnetism and gravity linked via information in the void.
It's one of the more surprising and perhaps testable aspects of the model. But again, trying to observe it more directly risks corrupting the very information you're trying to see.
So wrapping this up, this quantum geometry of information model, it really does offer a fundamentally different way of looking at reality.
It really does. It reframes everything as information processing, potentially unlocking technologies like teleportation that seem impossible otherwise.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, if reality is fundamentally just an information state waiting to be imposed on potential.
What other blueprints are out there?
Exactly. What other unrealized possibilities might just be waiting for us to figure out the right information state to make them real?
A profound thought to leave things on. What else could be written into reality?